My idea here is to bring a little bit of this vision of a new economy that is coming on. We are talking about several things like crowdfunding, like open ministry, which we heard, Iceland, which are crowdsourcing their legislation and their constituency, and so many other things as well that are coming to the awareness of people. That is about a more social and more inclusive and more connected to nature economy. So I've been studying this for 2 years now, and I have the privilege to go to Schumacher College, which is a college in south of England, where they study sustainable economy. So what I'm trying to bring here is a vision of an economy where we can say people and nature mattered. So sometimes I get a little bit worried when we do use the word like extract, or how can we harness or leverage the power of crowdsourcing and stuff, but we forget that in the end we are nature, we are human beings, we have willing, we have dreams, we have objectives in our lives, and if we look at the crowd as a thing to extract value and don't interact and really connect with them, then I think it's not the right way that our economy is going. As I am from Brazil, I know a lot of problems in my country. There's a lot of poor people, there's a lot of criminality, and I think the future and the things that we can do together is the way that we can shape a new economy. So I'm trying to bring this a little bit, this idea now. I brought this image because just to remember the beautiful city we are in, I thought what kind of image I could bring for economy in transition. I didn't find one, so I brought this one. There is this image that I really like, I learned there in Schumacher College, which is human nature is not a machine. And it's very interesting because there is this thing holding a mirror and looking back after and seeing that in the end we are nature. Yes, we come from nature, we go through nature, and that's a cycle. And it's very important to think on that. As mentioned before, I think it was the guy from Microsoft or SAP who told that nature has this evolution and this learning through all the evolution. Yes, we have 3.8 billion years on Earth, and if we can understand what nature has evolved and get more powerful, it's because it has worked as a network. It has worked as an ecosystem. So this vision of understanding the human nature, not as a machine, but as nature, is very important. There is one thing as well that we've always forgot, that in the end we have an operational system inside of us. And this operational system is something that drives us on, that keep us going on, keep us producing and developing new things, and even reproducing ourselves. What is this operational system? It's love. I know it sounds strange to talk about economy and love, but love is something that sometimes it's forgotten in this economy nowadays. Love for each other, the way of interacting and connecting with people, this relationship economy is something that we really have to think about. So I think this idea of understanding that in the end we have an operational system that is love, and this makes us connect in a society, is very important as well. Just to bring an idea about this book, who really changed my mind. Who have read this book? It's Most Beautiful by Schumacher. One person. So it's very interesting just to bring some ideas out of this book. This sentence, which is economy based on growth and paradigm, economy based on growth paradigm and endless search for wealth, is something that is really not sustainable. Because imagine, most of the big companies nowadays, they really get bigger and bigger. But why? Because maybe the economy is like this, is like the paradigm of the biggest, and the more growth that you have is the better. But that's not true. I really don't believe more that eternal growth is the best way to get something done. And there is this idea that I truly believe, and other thinkers nowadays believe, that people can only be themselves in small groups. So this idea of working more as a network and not as a big company like hierarchical structures is something that we have to think more and more nowadays. There is as well this point that he brings, that the majority of businesses are still generating inequality, alienation, and spiritual death. And that's another problem that we have. When we really have employees that don't have this willing, this nature of being in a place where they can relate to each other and be themselves, then we have a problem as well. So that's a good thing to think when we are doing businesses and creating our companies. So there is a design challenge when we are thinking on building new companies as well. To understand why is there an I and we. This design challenge is very important because when we develop a new product, a new company, even ourselves in our environment of cooperation, we have to think, why are we together? And this is the purpose. The purpose is the thing that drives people to do things. And purpose is very important because in the end, when you have a clear purpose, you can have this hidden leader. Because it's all about now, oh, how can I lead a company to do this? How can I lead a big group? Or even lead a crowd to do that? So the purpose, which is clear and normally develops a very interesting thing for the ecosystem, and when it is clear, then you have some hidden leader. So you don't have to put so much rules or hierarchy on when you have this purpose clear. There is several interesting kinds of understanding participatory leadership, and one was told here, which is open space technology. Whoever have ever participated in a Word Cafe? Raise the hand. Okay, so Word Cafe and open space technology and other things like Closing Circle and Proaction Cafe are kinds of technology that help people to lead in a way that is more dynamic, is more inclusive and participatory. So you don't have like super closed things, but you have an open environment where people can relate to each other in a more open way, and very creative things can emerge from that. There is something called Art of Hosting, which I invite you to take a look because it's very interesting. artofhosting.org, which is a technology and it's like a practice, a group of practice, international one, which they practice this kind of participatory leadership gatherings. Who does know this diagram? Please raise your hands, which is Paul Baran diagram. It's a very important diagram in the world of internet because this in 1964 was his idea on a project to base communication in a resilient way. And when we see here, he says, okay, there is one way to centralize communication where you put one hub there sending other communications for other areas. You have a decentralized way of communicating where you have some multi-hubs sending to others. And in the end, you have this distributed pattern, which is nowadays the pattern of the internet and is the pattern more resilient. Knowing that, we have this very simple formula that is very interesting as well to understand the idea from Web 1.0 to the Web 2.0, that is what we are having now, is the maturity of Web 2.0. We have Web 2.0 like around 2000, 2001, and maybe the great example would be Wikipedia. And nowadays, more and more, we have like crowdfunding platforms, we have open innovation platform, which is co-creation of projects and social projects. So this is the maturity of the new web. And this is like 1 to N, it is Web 1.0, and nowadays on the Web 2.0, you have N to N. It means millions to millions, 100 people to 100 people. So this is a free pattern, which is like this pattern here. So in the end, we are coming to a moment of social power, which is nowadays we have the power even to take out authorities from governments like in Syria or in Egypt, where people helped by Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and other matters of communication could demote these people from power and really establish a new kind of government. And these are very important moments that we are living right now. So out of this, understanding this, we developed Engage, which is our company in Brazil. Engage is the first company for technology focused on social innovation. So we use the power of the internet to help people, society, or city to get a better solution for things and problems. And the group altogether, we are 20 people. And we believe more on the paradigm of collaboration rather than the paradigm of competition. Okay, I really think that you can rethink all the economy in a paradigm of collaboration, and we have several examples of open source, which is really amazing right now. For example, Linux and all the things that are being done with Linux is a great example on that. And just to show some 4 projects which maybe are the most interesting that we did in Brazil. This one is the Crowdsourcing. It's the first crowdfunding platform in Brazil. It is And it is as well the first open source crowdfunding platform in the world. We did as well Mill Hill, which is a civic engagement platform, together with Purpose, which is a company based on New York, and they develop civic engagement movements based online. We develop Festivais de Ideias, it means Ideas Festival, where it's a place like Open Innovation Platform, where you can discuss about new social projects and impacts on them. And nos.vc, which is a crowd-learning platform, peer-to-peer learning platform. All of these 4 platforms are open source. Just to tell what is this Catarse, nowadays we have like 7 million reais, which about $4 million crowdfunded, and in Brazil is the biggest platform right now. Just to tell you some 3 projects that is different from Brazil to USA, because in USA, like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and other platforms, you see a lot of projects on the prosumers side, which is new products going on, Pebble, watch, and games and everything. Here in Brazil, you see a lot of projects in a social area. Just to mention 3, which I consider very interesting. One is Belo Monte, is a documentary about the new installation of hydroelectric in Brazil, which was built in a totally unresponsible way of seeing nature and seeing society. There is this, which is called Ônibus Hacker. It's a hacker bus. It's a bus full of hackers and software engineers who are traveling Brazil, and they go from city to city to hack governments in a good way, which means hacks is to go inside the government, understand what they have of information, and try to bring them to the population to use this information in a good way. And you have this project which is in the background, which is Pimp My Carroça. It's a project that developed a new way of understanding and seeing the people who carry trash in Brazil. So here, it's called a carroça. It's people who really go on the street getting trash. And the idea, this social artist, he's a graffiti painter, and he understands, okay, I should give maybe a new look for these people, and he started to paint and refurbish all of these carroças, which I don't know the name in English, and might not have, because maybe some developed countries don't have this kind of thing, but he did really refurbish and make a new movement of these people who were like marginalized from society. So just to give an example of open source, then one might think and ask, so why do you open source the thing? How can you give up all the information, the intellectual property that you developed? No, and for just to give an example, nowadays there are 17 platforms on crowdfunding that are using our web source code. There are 327 web developers which collaborates on this open source code, which is a group of email. We just created a group, Catarse Development, at Google Groups, and there are 327 developers around the world, which are Ruby on Rails developer, is the language we use. And nowadays we have several other things being developed because of this. And just to give you an example of the platforms that are rising, one of these is MedStar from the United States. The crowdfunding focused on new drug, on new healthcare social projects, or even on research for that. So they could raise this platform in a very quick way because they use our platform, which is open source. And now they collaborate with us together. There is this called Neighborly, which is a very interesting platform for civic engagement and building new things in the neighborhood and city around the world. It's very interesting because they have several small and big projects, like a project for a park, for people to play in very small parks and stuff. It's a very interesting platform. And as well, another platform that was raised is called Impulso, which means like little push in Portuguese, and it's the first crowdfunding for micro entrepreneurs in Brazil. It really allows micro entrepreneurs to receive donations to begin their small business, like a coffee shop or anything even smaller than that. So the idea is here that when you create an open source, you create an environment of collaboration, and you begin to exchange things, exchange capital, intellectual property, values and financial products and finance institutions that really comes on your collaboration environment and say, okay, this is an interesting environment, and I will help this to foster even more the collaboration. This is a group called comum.cc. You can enter it. It's a website where it's a network of companies that believe in this new idea of collaboration, of a new economy where people believe and exchange values and collaborate to develop interesting businesses that really gets better society. So I will not translate here, but just to have an idea, we are a brand, we are a symbol, we are a movement, that we are 100% shared, open source, autonomous, free, open, collective, and which does art, actions, projects, businesses, technology, communication, and cultures. So nowadays there are these around 20 companies that endorse this new collective of people who believe in collaboration and open source ideas. And for example, Engage is one of these, Material Brasil, Catarse, which now is an autonomous company that is developing their own way. Estaleio Liberdade, which is a very interesting movement of a new education on anthroposophy, which means to give power to new young people who are getting into market, for them to believe in themselves and to connect with themselves to see what they want to do, and not just they getting into the market like the normal way where they really build things in like an alienated way. And you have like WeShare. Who knows WeShare? Please raise your hands. WeShare is the biggest community in Europe of sharing economy, and they are endorsing as well our idea. So my whole question was here just to bring this new idea of a new economy. And only the last question, I'm just finishing now. Who saw the TED video from Amanda Palmer? Please raise your hands. Okay, this is a must-see TED video. This is the most interesting project of music. She raised $1,100,000, and she gave a TED, a 50-minute talks, where she explained this idea of a new economy, this idea of saying, hey, look, I'm doing music, I'm doing art, and I would like for you to collaborate, and this open-hearted new idea of coming to take together with the people and doing crowdfunding. So it's a very interesting video, and that's all. Thank you very much.